Hi, I am Helmut Licht. Thank you for joining me in this video, which is the first one in a series of videos in which I will try to explain to you, first of all, what happened to me about 40 years ago, and then show you how I try to make sense of what happened to me. About 40 years ago, I had an experience that only lasted a split second, where I realized an underlying oneness in the universe. And that's the best way I can explain it to you. And after I had the experience, it was so profound, I tried to make sense of it. So what I did, I would go to a local quarry. And at the end of the quarry was a tree that hung over it, making a nice shadow. I would take my raft out there and my notepad and my pencil, and I would tie my raft to one of the branches, and then I would think about what happened during that split second. And then as I thought about it, thoughts came to me, and I jotted them down. It took all summer, and I ended up with a lot of notes and material, which I then combined into a book. But I'd like to now use the videos to explain to you how it impacted my life. Not so much then, but I was busy working, raising a family. I got sidetracked a year later and sort of put it on a shelf. But when COVID came in about 2.5 years ago, and my business went down to zero, and I had all this time on my hand, which I do have now also, even though it's picking up a little bit, I have decided to reread that book and sit down and make a series of videos. Again, I had an experience which lasted a split second, but in that split second I realized something which I call the oneness underneath everything that exists. And since it was so profound and all-encompassing, I decided to call it my God. It may not be what you call your God, and I'm not saying that my way is the right way or yours is the right way. We all experience God in our own way. And it's not important how we think of God. It's more important how the thought of God and the understanding of God and the experience of God influences, shapes our character, and thereby our destiny. My wife, Burma Lee, who is now passed away, used to read my notes, and she would laugh and she would say, you know, I just feel God. I just feel Him. And you are breaking God down into words, sentences, and paragraphs. Well, I could see where she thought that was strange. But she was a seamstress. And we would go out to a department store and go to the dress department section, and I would see a beautiful gown, And I would say, this is beautiful. It's just beautiful. She would go over, look at the stitches, the hemming, the material, how it's put together, turn it inside out, and analyze it. Just the way I analyzed my experience. She could not just say, that's a beautiful dress. She had to pick it apart. So in her own way, she was doing what I was doing. And I took notes, like I said before, and I will be reading some of those notes. And here we go. For a long time, I had been praying for and confidently expecting an insight, a realization, which would be so basic, profound, and simple that it would serve me unfailingly as the root principle, foundation, and springboard of all my endeavors to speculate about and understand the universe and my existence within it. I had this realization. It only took a split second, and its repercussions are still ringing and singing and working in my mind. I experienced and realized the one which I call my God. I call this one my God for two reasons. The realization of his universal presence was and still is an extremely personal experience. I do not want to imply in any way or form that this is the only way God manifests. What I experienced may not even be what you call your God. Everybody experiences and lives with God in his or her own way. After all, it's not important as to how we perceive God, but rather how our perception of God shapes our character and thereby our life and destiny. Initially, I referred to my God as he, strictly because I lived the first 20 years of my life in Germany. And in the German language, God is der Gott, which is masculine. The one I experienced, however, is neither male nor female, though, as it will be shown later, both sexes are contained within it. For that reason, I considered it. However, as it is my God, I had to feel comfortable with whatever I called this oneness. Therefore, I reverted back to he. When I say I realized the one, I don't mean understand. But it was as if I had been living in a cave all my life, and somebody else in the cave had been describing me a rainbow. From that person's description, I knew all about a rainbow. I thought. Until one day I stepped outside the cave and actually saw a rainbow. The moment I saw the rainbow, all descriptions fell short and were totally unnecessary. Unnecessary. I repeat, I experienced and realized the one which I call my God. There are women who will see a dress, like it, and buy it without analyzing it. They simply like it, and that's good enough for them. There are people who listen to a piece of music and like it. without analyzing it. They simply like it, and that's good enough for them. But then there are women who are seamstresses. They will see a dress they like, turn it inside out to examine the stitching, the hemming, how it is put together, and whatever else there is to examine. And then there are professional musicians, like myself, who hear a piece of music. And as they hear it, they hear individual instruments. Trumpets, violins, brass section, whatever. First endings, second endings, fortissimos, pianissimos, and so on. The profound momentary experience The profound momentary experience I mentioned above was like hearing a piece of music for me. Hearing it wasn't enough for my mentality. I was compelled to go further. And these videos represent that process of going further.